So according to the indigenous traditions that carry these teachings forward, like I said, Shiva was the first yogi. And when I say yogi, I'm talking about like doing the physical practices. And there's all these other amazing beings that are like luxurious and music and the arts and money and all of these things, and even devotion. There's another form of Shiva later as Hanuman. But the first practitioner of this kind of thing is Shiva. And he's working with death, poison, anger. It's not like a let's have a nice time kind of an experience. He's sitting in the where the burning bodies are. This is an intense place to be. And the stories are not like a Western tradition where the gods are like perfect. I mean, I guess in the Old Testament, God's like always hurting people from the Bible, right? But it's more like even the gods make mistakes. Like Shiva is consumed by anger. He cuts off the head of his own son. He gets carried away, but then realizes like when he's made a mistake that he has to make it better. And the reason I bring that up is because I feel like that's what I'm doing in this practice. I don't feel like I'm like having a nice time doing Ashtanga. I feel like I'm working on hard things, death like things. And those are, it's for a good cause. When we say hala hala in the prayer, hala hala or halasana, you know what that word means? Poison. It means poison. So we say, oh, do plow pose, but actually it's poison pose. That's what you're saying. I think, well, that's kind of weird. Why would I want to do poison pose? You're holding the energy in your throat. And the story is that at some point, the world was so bad, people were hurting each other, violent, telling lies, all of this stuff, addiction, a lot of problems. It got so bad that you couldn't see any good. It was hard to find. And so devotees prayed to the yogi Shiva to come and help them. And he sucked the evil out of the world and held it in his throat so it wouldn't kill him until he could spit it somewhere. That's the hull. So every time you say that prayer, you're saying, like, may I transform the poison of my life and this world into medicine. That's what you're doing. Or you look at this image of Nataraj on online people you can't see, but I'm sure you know the Nataraj. This is not just like a dancing guy having a fun time. If you look closely, he's in the middle of a fire. He's dancing in the flames. That's tapas. And then if you look really close, there's this little dwarf underneath him that he's standing on top of. It's a bit unpleasant. And the dwarf is to signify ignorance. So when you see this, what's actually happening is that he's dancing on ignorance. You ever had a conversation with an ignorant, angry person? Did it make you feel like dancing? Like the yogi is able to be like, all right, okay, this is what it is. And the way that's cultivated is through the fire. It doesn't come from like, I'll just do some nice, gentle things and then I'll be able to face the world. It doesn't work like that. I don't know. Maybe your life's like that. My life is not like that. I have to do things so that I can show up and actually like be somewhat of a nice person. And if I don't do something difficult, I'm not able to do it. Either the weight of the world is so much that I become apathetic, or I think everybody's out for themselves, so fuck it. And if you heard my teacher Taylor's book, the worst thing you could ever say, he said, is those words, because something bad is about to happen before you say that. You know, oh, fuck it, who cares? You understand? And so if you have addiction. And I shared something online yesterday from Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist, who's saying that there's something in your brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And that part of your brain develops when you're doing hard things that you don't want to do. And people who live the longest tend to have a large, this section of the brain. So you're doing something difficult. You're facing the fire. You're dancing through the flames. You're showing up, even though you don't want to. And that's where the benefit of the practice is. The benefit is not in the, I got the thing that I've been working on. That's like a cookie, like a treat. It's not the real thing. The real thing is, I only got 4 hours of sleep and I showed up anyways. The real thing is, I can't even bend this arm, but I'm going to find a way to practice. The real thing is, my horse just died and I could just stay in bed and cry, but instead I'm going to show up and work through it on the mat. That's the turning poison into medicine. That's giving what you can, and it's not easy. And you heard me say it yesterday. Everybody wants the result. Nobody wants to work through the progress, like what it takes to get there. Everybody says they see Laruga on Instagram and say, I want that. They don't see the 25 years of practice, injured back, injured leg, struggle with students not coming to the shala, blah, 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 blah. You don't see that. You got to do that work. And that's this dancing in the fire. It's like, this is all I got to give. And nobody knows that except for you. Like David Williams, the first Western Ashtanga student, he said, the only person who knows if you're doing real yoga is like you and Shiva. And if you're like fucking around, but on the surface it looks like you're doing it, it's not helping you. You know what I mean? You got to really listen. Are you doing your best? Yes, you're good. I tell you guys all the time, like, if you're making a story about whether or not you're going to practice the night before, stop doing that. The difference between a novice and an experienced practitioner is the novice makes stories. The experienced practitioner just does it. My teacher, Dharma, he's been doing this for over 60 years. And he always says, you do the practice because it has to be done. That's it. That's the only reason it's got to be done. Why? Doesn't matter. It just has to happen. That's the master speaking, not like, well, this happened and that happened. And so blah, 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 blah. That's the novice speaking. Everyone does it. I do it. Every morning I wake up and I go, kind of sore today. Maybe I'll just do some yin when I get to the. No, you can do that later. And it's not because of any kind of like anal sort of thing. It's because I know if I do the hard thing, that's where the benefit is. And then I can do the gentle stuff later before bed, you know? But if you're not interested in the fire of hatha yoga, like people are so confused about that word. People say, I do hatha yoga. It's the gentle one. You know what that word means? Hatha. You know what it means in Sanskrit? It means forceful. It doesn't mean gentle. It means, push, go, strive, work through the fire. It's not like, oh, I do the gentle one. No, it's not how it works. The gentle one is chanting. The gentle one is feed people. You don't want to put your leg behind your head? Well, feed people is more effective and a little bit easier. You know what I mean? But there's this misconception like, oh, the asanas should be this really sweet and nice. That comes later. That's the dancing that comes after the fire. Like you like Rumi, right? Rumi said the cooling effect of God, like the experience of God, comes through the fire, not through the cooling of the water. It doesn't work. You need to be burnt. Everything needs to be burned away, and then you'll feel it. And this will help you. But you're going to have stories every day. Well, I don't think maybe I'll just. And like I said to Sarah yesterday, if your practice is like, I roll out the mat, I stand in samasthiti, I lift my arms up, I inhale, and I exhale, fold forward, and then you do shavasana, I'm okay with that. But if you didn't put the mat out because you have a story, you're not helping yourself. All you have to do is put the mat out. Put the mat out, stand at the end of it. And if you're like, fuck this, then okay, fair enough. But most people won't do that. If they want to do this, they'll put the mat out, they'll start and they'll go, might as well do it anyway. Yeah. And I heard Richard Freeman say that he's been doing this forever. Amazing, still, practitioner, so clear, steady, so inspiring to see him and his wife, Mary Taylor. And why is he like that in this world now at that age? Because of the consistency of you show up, you do it, you know. Okay, thanks for showing up.